Now, I guess for your people who are just let's say you're just new to investing, right? You see the price at whatever it is. Let's assume 89, 90,000 roughly. Um, is this a place to potentially put fresh money in right now, or for the year? I guess what do you see for the year for Bitcoin? Basically, what's that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Bitcoin is really hard to predict in the short term because it's such a global market. Like sometimes you'll have a news event, or a news event. Sometimes you'll like, let's say you see the price dips down, and you're trying to like dig, like, what? Everything seems good. Why would it be dipping down? It's always good news. And then you find out, oh yeah, the German government had a bunch of confiscated, and they just dumped it for some reason in the market instead of like selling and maintaining the price. They literally just like sold everything and just kind of crashed the market, whether intentionally or just from ignorance or whatever. You find that out, but they don't say that while they're doing it. That news comes out quite a bit later, so it's pretty erratic. You can have like one random guy who owns a bunch of Bitcoin in, Guatemala, that's worth like $1 billion, and he just decides to sell, and that totally moves the market. And you really have no way of predicting when, Jose is going to sell, and that he's going to sell, and that his incentive is to sell slowly, but not everyone does. The price can be erratic. So maybe he's worried he has cancer, and he just finds that out. He didn't even know he was going to sell until the doctor said, you have cancer, you have 3 months to live. And he's like worried, oh my God, I need to give my family money, before I can't even remember the password or whatever. Maybe it's his password's only like memorized or known by him, and he's worried about that. And he just wants to sell and then, get it turned into, like a fiat currency or land or whatever, and then give it all to his family. That might move the price quite a bit. So, and that's virtually impossible to predict. So, Bitcoin's a really, really tough market so that's a complicated way of saying, I know the long-term incentive of Bitcoin is up. And, again, I'm just going to give a bullish prediction on Bitcoin from 100,000 to 250,000. Yeah, by the end of the year. Same prediction as last year, basically, even though I was wrong.
Hey, no problem.
Yeah.
No problem.
I know it's a wide range, but it is tough to really nail it down.
So I guess to answer the question, you would, assuming you own no Bitcoin now, how would this is a great question. Assuming you own no Bitcoin now, how would you go about owning it? And
that's a good question. Yeah, for sure. It's definitely best to buy on the, buy on the blood of the street kind of thing. Recently there was a dip back into the, I think 70,000 range. That would have been a great time to buy if you're all prepped and ready to go. Because Bitcoin is very volatile. There's no market maker. It just kind of bounces around. So best time is to buy when there's dip, and Bitcoin's dead again for the 800,000th time, and that whole thing is a good time to buy. I like to buy the actual asset and hold it directly, so I feel like it's an emergency asset. So I have the little ledger, that you have it on offline, so it's fairly secure. You don't need. I don't have such a large net worth tied into it that I would, have like hire a company to make sure it's safe and all this sort of stuff, just to maybe get it insured or whatever. But I think it's really important to have it private. So I have my Bitcoin bought, cash and everything. So it's completely there's no name connected with it, just because if the government does go crazy, you don't want, they have access to all your name and all your information, all your bank accounts, everything. They can access all that stuff, email, unencrypted email traffic, everything. So were they to have some restrictions on people that own assets leaving the country or something like that crazy, then you don't want to be on the list. Sure. So I'll know it, then you're not going to be on the list, right? So yeah.
Definitely. Now, the thing is with me, from what my understanding for Bitcoin, and I have a chart up here. I'm gonna share my screen if I can do.
Yeah, sure.
Let me share my screen. Yeah. Can you see that?
Bitcoin QQQ total real return.
Okay.
So 1 year? Yeah.
Yeah, this is the 1 year. Now, this chart guys, I know it probably looks a little bit sloppy here, but I was looking at Bitcoin and I was seeing that around this time period, right, February.
Okay.
Look at its correlation with the QQQ, and the QQQ is essentially technology stocks. I don't know if you. I know I'm putting you on the spot, Dylan, because I know you don't see this, but do you see how the it's not completely correlated,
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah, it's a
but you
risk
see
on
how
asset basically.
yeah, you guys see how it does? Now, here's the crazy thing. If you go here, right, in October, it starts to lose its correlation. See
Yeah,
that?
yeah,
So essentially, what I'm trying to tell you is that Bitcoin can follow a lot of stuff based on the market. Why? Because you can actually, and I'm getting a little bit into this, in my own opinion, maybe Dylan can disagree with me on this, is that you can put a lot of Bitcoin on a lot of margin, right? And it can be traded on non days. You can trade it anytime, Saturday, Sunday, or whatever.
yeah. Most liquid asset in the world.
Yeah, yeah. So
Potentially.
it looks to me like here, sometime after. So what I'm trying to tell you folks, now, okay, we don't have to share my screen anymore. What I'm trying to tell folks is that it's I'm agreeing with Dylan. Bitcoin is very hard to follow because people call it digital gold. It's not following what gold is
Doesn't
doing.
follow the price of gold.
It does
Yeah,
not
it
follow
may
the
down
price.
the road, but it's not. It doesn't. It's not a risk off asset right now.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is that it can stick on to an asset for a little while, but you better be careful because now it's kind of doing its own thing. Or I haven't found out since October that it's doing its own thing. I mean, it's I guess what do you think of that assessment? Am I off on that or on from what?
Yeah, I mean, you could also obviously follow Bitcoin and trade it and stuff, but I just feel like there's so many other. You could also try and hack, the founder. He's got like 100 billion in Bitcoin in his account. If you can guess that password, you can access that money. I'm sure there are lots of people just dedicatedly trying to guess that password, undoubtedly, and it's clearly very very difficult because that has never been hacked. Obviously, those funds would have moved. Um, so I mean, you certainly can. There's a quote from who's that penny stock trader? Tim Sykes, I think his name is, and he talks about like when he was getting into stock trading and he was looking at trading Apple or trading like QVRX for 3 cents or something like that. And he's like, look, if I'm trading Apple, I'm trading like I'm playing basketball against like the Michael Jordan, the Kobe Bryant. Like, how am I going to beat these guys as opposed to like these little 3-year-olds? Like, you're buying
Yeah,
like QXLR, for 38 cents. He's like, I want to play a game I can win at.
yeah.
So if you're gonna be doing Bitcoin, good luck. Let's put it that way. You only need, as far as I'm concerned, you only know one asset you're really good at in a decent sized market, whether it's oil or biotech or gold miners, foreign gold miners, whatever it is. If you can master that, and I feel like you can make a really good return just on using that knowledge to trade it or invest in it or both or however you want to use that knowledge and have your edge basically. Where I mean, I have a friend that just trades oil. That's all he does. I mean, he's not full time. He's has a day job, but all he wants to do is trade oil, oil futures, and he's been doing it for he's still pretty young, so he's been doing it for like I think 2 years. But yeah, I can imagine in 10 years he'll be telling me stuff about oil and oil prices and all that sort of stuff that I never would have dreamed of and could have never been challenged. So I don't really think that's a good use of time to try and track all the Bitcoin world and jump ahead of it. And I mean, you can get leverage on anything. Why just focus on Bitcoin because you get 10x leverage or whatever. That's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I am against on leverage for many philosophical reasons. Um, unless the leverage is at, you got to, let me tell you, you really got to know what you're doing. I can't speak for Dylan, but myself, I do not use leverage in my accounts. I don't borrow any money to do that because leverage is very dangerous. I know.
Yeah, I have before. Like for example, I remember one time that I found Costco. It was when Costco stock was dirt cheap. It was like $50 a share. This is around I think 2016, and they had announced a $5 dividend. And I knew Costco from being there. I knew Costco because I was looking at the company's fundamentals a bit ago, and they announced a $5 dividend. The price hadn't moved yet, and so I did a 50% margin, bought the stock. I didn't have a phone to like a smartphone to check the stock, but I bought it. I think when they announced in the morning, it was like 51. I think it was pre-market too, so I think I bought pre-market. Stock was like 51. It had gone up to like 52.50 or something like that. I bought the stock around 52.50 and just put a sell order in for 57.50, and I didn't even look at the stock price until the end of the day. I think maybe I checked it at lunch or something like that. I didn't have a phone where I could check it, a smartphone. So, but I put that leverage bet on feeling, warm and fuzzy, because my account to be liquidated would have had to gone down to, like $25, the day of the $5 per share dividend announcement when I was catching that early. So I felt really good about that margin, but this is a very limited time opportunity. I had like basically a meteorite strike and like some freak accident that would have wiped out my account. It wasn't a big account at the time, so it really wasn't. I wasn't putting like some huge amount of money at risk. So, anyways, that's I have a couple things like that where I've done leverage, but yeah, very carefully calculated.
Yeah, sure. So I guess to kind of finish up on Bitcoin, we got probably about 6 or 7 minutes. I have asked Dylan this question. And I sometimes struggle with it. I'm the well. Let me talk about me. I'm the type of investor is I have no allegiance to. I can't say any stock, but let's just talk about cryptos here. If I can make more on Ethereum than I can make on Bitcoin, I'm going to choose Ethereum if I think the fundamentals are better. Right.
Agnostic. Yeah.
Exactly. That's the thing. So I guess going up to you, and since Bitcoin's kind of your passion, like I say, I only own a small percentage of Bitcoin. It's very small. With about 6 minutes, how is Bitcoin better than other cryptos? Because I do know for me, some cryptos are backed by certain backings, gold or silver or something, or some physical backing or some other backing. I think that's the better play to go if you're looking at it through a currency standpoint, because you can look at it through two things, in my own opinion. You can look at it as a currency, or you can look at it as a store of value. I think at first when Bitcoin was launched, it was supposed to be a currency. Maybe I'm wrong or whatever. But now it's kind of people are seeing it as a better store of value than cash. I guess what makes it better than the others? Ethereum or Dogecoin or whatever.
Yeah, I haven't looked at all of them. I've looked at Ethereum pretty intensely, I guess you could say. Ethereum. I mean, they changed things. They used to do proof of work. Now they do proof of stake, and that's the incentive is more like the Federal Reserve than it is just sort of open market. Whoever is the big boys in the Ethereum club decides what happens.